Hello and welcome to a Football Manager 21 team guide. I'm Charlie and I am the Sports Interactive Assistant Researcher for AFC Fylde. As a result, we are here with the Coasters for this team guide. Now, Fylde are found this season in the National League North, which is one of the two lowest possible playable leagues from England when you first start up the game, before downloading any additional databases or anything like that. You can start off in the Premier League, Premier Division on Football Manager, Sky Bet Championship, League 1, League 2, down to the Vanarama National, where AFC Fylde were last season, and then the Vanarama North or South. Fylde were, of course, on course for promotion 2 years ago. They were in the playoff final against Salford City and were one game away from the Football League, which is what everybody at the club is hoping to achieve, everything is driven towards. Unfortunately, last season did not start well, first under Dave Challoner, and then they didn't really pick up under Jim Bentley. Certainly towards the end of the season there was a bit more promise, but due to the global coronavirus pandemic, which is continuing, the 1920 season was cut short. Fylde found themselves relegated by points per game. They were down there along with the likes of Chorley, who you can also see are here in the National League North as well. They're predicted to finish 12th this season. Interestingly, they are listed as a semi-professional side, and that's the first thing you notice about Fylde on this opening screen. This is where you select your team. Fylde are a professional side, and certainly that will help you in the early reaches of your game, the early stages. Fylde will be able to attract better youth players and get players in on professional contracts, so that gives you a bit of a leg up early doors. Nickname is the Coasters, obviously Fylde very proud to be part of the Fylde Coast up there. Stadium is Mill Farm, we'll come to that later on when we look at the full facilities. Training and youth are down as average facilities in both categories. Interestingly, I would have thought Fylde were rated a little bit higher, but it's in terms of football as a whole rather than the league they're in. So there aren't many National League North, South, or even National League itself clubs who are listed as good. I think one of them is AFC Telford. There you go. The Bucks, another semi-professional side, but good training and good youth facilities. Interestingly, they're listed as AFC Telford and not just Telford, whereas Fylde are, of course, AFC Fylde, but they're listed as Fylde. Just something to think about for next year. The club culture here is to play attacking and entertaining football. So quite a few of the other teams will have little club culture aspects that you need to meet as their manager. Blyth, for example, they want to play high tempo pressing football. The Spartans, great badge, I do like Blyth, although if you want the best kit in the Vanarama National North, Gloucester, that's my bet. Lovely couple of kits there, do enjoy that. Meadow Park, and as you can see there, just as for example, basic training facilities and below average youth facilities. In terms of the history of Fylde, we'll probably go into this in a bit more depth in a couple of minutes, but as you can see, it has been a big upwards trend for the last several years, starting in there 09-10, down at level 8, all the way up to the Vanarama National League, where the club were relegated last season in 23rd place. Real sickener there for the Coasters. Fylde are predicted to finish second, as you can see, so real shot at promotion here. If you were to guess who would be predicted to finish first, if you were to say Boston, for example, you would be wrong, predicted to finish third. The actual first place prediction goes to York City, although I'm going to say that with a straight face. I'm not going to add anything on that. No promote to bitterness is happening here. Certainly not today. Maybe in future, later on in the video. Also, another professional side known as the Minstermen. I did not know that. You learn something new every day. So I'm going to select Fylde here, and then I will see you in a short while, because we're going to go straight into the game and have a poke around there. Welcome back. Hopefully that worked. The power of editing. We have replaced Jim Bentley as the AFC Fylde manager. And just before we begin, I just want to say a big best wishes to Jim. He's got a surgery coming up in the next week or so, quite a serious one. And hopefully all goes well. He's got a speedy recovery and he's back in the dugout before we know it. All the best to Jim there. In terms of the coasters, we'll have a look at the competitions and the expectations first. In the Vanarama National League North, the board are looking for promotion by winning the league, not playoffs, straight up. Setting their sights quite lofty and ambitious from the start. In the FA Cup, the expectation is to reach the first round and Fylde enter the fourth qualifying round, so there's just one game and then you've reached the minimum expectation. In the FA Trophy, it'll be 2 games because Fylde enter the second round, and then they'll get through to the fourth round as a minimum. That is what is required by the board. I'm going to go down to club info to start with. So this is where you can find out all about the club that you have elected to manage. Now I'm just going to give you a bit of insight into what all this means. So Fylde were previously known as Kirkham and Wesham, progressed to Fylde the year founded there, 1988. As discussed, they are a professional side in terms of status. Nathan Pond is the captain. He's got 4 international caps. Alex Whitmore is there as the vice captain. We'll come on to Mill Farm in a second. We've got the kits there, new kits for this season, certainly a new away kit, and I'm fairly sure different colours have been added to the home kit. On the left here in league history, we've got all the different placings for Fylde over the last 10-ish years. Green dots mean promotions there, and the red, of course, means relegation. Last season, there you have it. You can also select other screens on here. So look at pending transfers, teams, and club background. There you go. You can see all about everything that we're going to talk about. The general page features mainly the rivalries. I think that's what most people would be interested in. Fylde have a fierce rivalry with local team Chorley from just down the road, also in Lancashire. Here, other rivals are basically the local clubs in the area: Lancaster, Bamberbridge, Fleetwood, Blackpool. I haven't noted Preston down because I don't think the two clubs ever talk about each other that much, whereas Fleetwood and Blackpool, of course, on the Fylde coast. And then Stockport has a competitive rivalry. Plenty has gone on with the county over the last few years. I am going to miss that day this season when the Stockport fans, well, any fans been in the stadium, but certainly the Stockport one especially, because it was a fantastic atmosphere last year. Really competitive, good game as well. Tom Walker was an absolute star that day. In terms of facilities, Fylde are located at Mill Farm in Kirkham, just over 5,000 with 2,000 seated. It was built in 2016. Really good stadium, especially for non-league. I mean, it's a fantastic place to go and watch some football. Plenty of good vantage points as well. Stadium condition is very good. It is quite new, and then it's grass. Pitch condition is good, I should expect. There were issues last season, but I'm going to put those down as an anomaly. And then previously we've talked about the average training and youth facilities with average academy coaching and fairly basic youth recruitment. I did put down in the data Kellermer Park for the youth stadium, but it appears to have taken Mill Farm for some reason. Not quite sure why. The affiliates are just Rochdale. Fylde have played a few friendlies against them over the last few years, I think. They were in there since 2018, and that's kind of when I started, so I've just kind of left them in there. Hopefully that's accurate. If not, I'm sure somebody will let me know. In the history screen, we've got plenty of trophies. So Fylde won 6 in their short history, including the only club to win both the FA Trophy and FA Vase. The big one there obviously is the Vanarama National League North, which is again what Fylde are shooting for in the coming season. one of the things you can do, which I find quite interesting, is to look at their league history. So other than last season as a bit of an anomaly and the first ever season in the Northern Premier in 2009-10, as recorded on here, Fylde have never been lower than 7th in a league table, and that came in 17-18 when they did make the playoffs that year. So plenty of success, just not last season, which makes it all the more disappointing. In terms of managers, they're just me and Jim in there. Records are somewhere that you can have a look and shoot down some of these over the next few years. Obviously, most league goals by player is Danny Rowe, along with appearances. Most goals by a player in a season is 47 with Danny. We've got most goals by a player in a match, Bradley Barnes, and then youngest goal scorer is Joey Mullen, 16 years and 155 days. Transfers, the highest transfer fee paid is $50,000 for Ryan Crowsdale from Kidderminster back in 2018. Highest attendance, 3,858 for the game against Chorley. I suspect that needs updating, if I'm honest. I haven't checked what the attendance was against Stockport. Into the club vision page, and again it's just what we've been through before, play attacking and entertaining football. They will give you a bit of an update as the season goes on just here about how you're doing. So you'll see that after probably, I think it's 10 games, that'll start taking shape. And then we've obviously got the next few years mapped out for us here. Vanarama North, they want promotion this season. And then after that, it's promotion in year 22-23. Obviously, the game thinks that 21-22 to get promotion is a bit of a stretch going back to back. That's what's going to happen in real life if Fylde are going to get up there by the 2022 ambition that the chairman David Haythornthwaite set out back 15 years ago, I think now, probably 16 now. In your financial screen, you'll find that Fylde are quite a healthy club in terms of their finances, 450,000 in the bank. That's to be expected, really. The chairman has got the club on quite a sound footing. You know, everything seems to be well run. Everything is geared up for that promotion tilt. 20,000 transfer budget, pretty modest. Not the a massive amount that perhaps some people would expect for Fylde, because they are sort of get tarnished with the stem of a checkbook club, which I don't think is true, because actually Fylde don't really spend that much money on players. They probably spend top end on wages in terms of the structure, the wage structure of the club, but transfer fees not so much. Oh, they only spend really what they get back in. And then we've got wage budget. It's set as 13,757 for the year, but we're only spending 12,757, so there's a grand left in there. Scouting budget is down to 32,000. I don't know whether that's a big number or not, if I'm honest. Projection's quite an interesting one, because you can see how the club's expected to do over the coming seasons. Worryingly, they're down to make a loss of 1.57 million by the end of the 22-23 season. So that's about 2 million down on what we currently have. The things that will mitigate that are the success, selling of players. That's a big one. When I played Football Manager 20 last year as AFC Fylde, didn't sell a single player in 4 seasons. Had I done that, I think our finances would have been a little bit better than they were. But success, trophies, they will of course help out. Get you up there in terms of sponsors as well. So there are just a few sponsors, not that many. You've got the kit and then a general sponsorship. Something to focus on. As far as I know, there's no debt from the club because the chairman owns it, and then you've also got information on the salary commitments. This is a really good planning tool because it helps you with the players that are due to continue with you. So for example, if we click here, we can see that the players that have got 2-year contracts automatically, there are some with clauses and extension triggers. but the ones that are staying so far are Danny Filskirk and Jordan Hume, new striker. So they are into the 21-22 column. Everybody else appears to be on 1-year deals. We'll come to the squad in a second. Actually, I will go through all that. Before that, though, we'll have a quick look at the staff and who we've got. So, in terms of staff, we're actually doing quite well in terms of comparison with the rest of the National League North. We've got some, certainly for goalkeeping distribution, best in the league, as we have with mental. And then in the terms of recruitment, analysing data, one of the top ones as well. It all starts at the top with the chairman, David Haythornthwaite, a bit of a controversial figure. If you're not an AFC Fylde fan, you've probably got an opinion on him already, to be honest. I like him. I've met him a few times. He's always been very pleasant to me, I have to say. But yeah, somebody who certainly courts controversy, I think, whether intentional or not. Jonty Castle is managing director. He came over from Wigan start of last season, I want to say. Di Davis has been involved with the club for a number of years, really sort of founded it with David Haythornthwaite. And then we've got assistant manager Nick Chadwick. That's another change this season. So it was Kenny McKenna, Jim Bentley's long-time assistant last year. Nick has come in from Wigan Academy, one of the teams there, and has seemingly done well so far, and he'll be taking charge of the real-life coasters while Jim Bentley is recovering from his operation. Head of Youth Development and under 18s manager, is Conrad Prendergast. Then we've got goalkeeping coach of Joe Potts, head physio Gareth Thomas. He was difficult to find in the database, if I'm honest. Player sports scientist is Andy Taylor. Now, this was quite an interesting story. One of many that came out of David Haythornthwaite's stint on YouTube was that while he recovers from quite a serious injury, he would be taking up some analysis role with the club. So he's in there as a sports scientist. Chief Scout and Recruitment Analyst is Carl Newton, so he's new as far as I'm aware. And then you've got a scout of David Bajara. Non-league teams, certainly at this sort of level, are really difficult to get your hands on the personnel file and really sort of delve deep into exactly who is there on staff. A couple on part-time contracts as well, so again, it all adds up to what the ideal of what you want is to be the most accurate data that you can do. Whether we've achieved that, I think so. But I'm interested to know, compared to other clubs, because this is the thing, you see, you tend not to have chats between researchers of how other clubs have filled their staff and whether it is a true representation. We'll now come to the squad. So this is the bit that everybody wants to know about. This is the first team squad. So in goal, we've got 2 new goalkeepers this year, Chris Neal and Max Johnston. So Max, of course, related to Sam Johnston. Last season, goalkeeping position was a bit of an issue. They had 4 goalkeepers on the roster at various different times of the season, and none of them really set the world alight, and was a bit of a scapegoat, I felt, for both Dave Challen and Jim Bentley. I don't think they were bad goalkeepers. I think they were badly protected, but they didn't often help themselves, if we're truthful about it. So James Montgomery, Dan Labercombe have moved on, and Josh Lillis was there at the end of the season, and a lad on loan from Bradford as well. So they've all gone. Alex Whitmore will partner Nathan Pond in defence. Nathan Pond, sorry. So he is a Montserrat international. He's the big signing in defence, is Nathan Pond. Have a look at him. Obviously been around the block. He was with Salford for the last 2 years, made 63 league appearances. Before that, many years with Fleetwood in League One. So certainly somebody who's played at a higher level. And then you've got further back in his career, I think he was with Fleetwood for a number of years, and then Lancaster is where he started out. So he's probably going to be your central defence, along with Alex Whitmore, who's a survivor from the squad last year. As is right back Luke Burke. Now he's wanted by clubs from the off, Lincoln, Oxford and Rochdale. Very good player is Luke Burke. Scouser, I believe. Better than the National League North, for sure. His level is probably top of the National League stroke Football League entry kind of phase. It'll be interesting to see if he does stay with the club. He's only young, so he was brought in on loan initially from Wigan and then signed permanently. As you can see, also had a stint with Barrow on loan. Really good player, I think, rating very highly. Hopefully with better defenders around him this season, or defenders who are on better form, he'll play well as well, because it didn't really get the opportunity to go forward as much as he would have liked last season. Left back, you're looking at Luke Conlon. He's been brought in this season. And we've got Nathan Shaw here. He's on loan from Blackpool, just down the road. And there you have, 19 years old. Middle of midfield to replace the likes of Lewis Montrose. You're looking at David Perkins, Jordan Lussey. So Perkins especially. I mean, he's played championship level from what I remember. Yeah, he was there with Wigan in the championship, Blackpool and Barnsley before that. So really good player, well thought of at the likes of Tranmere and Rochdale as well. So always got games wherever he's been. So he's certainly been in favour. Earlier in his career, he was with Morecambe. So very aware, obviously, of Jim Bentley. 645 league appearances to his name. That is a big number. On the wings, the likes of Junior Mondole and Ben Tollett will be your picks. So these guys, I haven't seen a lot of them because they're new this season, and obviously it's been difficult to try and watch Fylde. They have put out the player that you can watch the games on. Haven't been able to watch many of them. I'm not certain about these wingers. To me, they're a bit rostrum or hospital, I think is how I describe them. You know, they're just as well banging in a long shot from 40 yards than drilling a corner into the stand behind the goal. You never know. So whether they work out, I think they've both got great opportunity. Whether they get the minutes on the pitch is a different story. Hopefully they do, and hopefully they come through shining for the Coasters. Danny Philliskirk is a bit of an issue, and I will accept some responsibility for his data, because the data is showing him his best position is as a left wing and as a striker, and he's not really a striker, although he did score this weekend, I have to say. So sorry, not this weekend, this week. On Tuesday evening. So maybe he is. Still only 29 years old. He feels like he's been around for donkey's years. Obviously a big player with Blackpool back in the day. Spent 3 seasons there, having arrived from Oldham in 2015. Been with the Coasters now for 3 years and is committed for the future. I think he's done a bit of a deal to sign on for a lesser wage initially, but a longer contract. Quite a clever ploy by him. So yeah, I took a bit of stick from Jack Connor, the Fylde reporter on Twitter, for his data. Partially my fault, but partially his stats just lend themselves to different positions. A bit of a toolkit, can play all over the front there in the game. In real life, he's certainly more of a central player in midfield. Up front, you've got Jack Sampson, Kurt Willoughby and Jordan Hume. It's expected that Jordan Hume will be the big player. Plenty of goals at Altrincham and indeed Salford in 15-16 as well. Has been around the sort of lower league structure for quite a while. Expect him to bag a few goals. The other player that I want to point out is Nick Horton. Now, he is considered one of the best technical players at the club. Seems to score a lot of goals this season. Played well for me actually in last year's FM20. He stayed with us all the way through to the Championship. Has been at the club now for a few seasons. Arrived from Salford initially, and they have it 30, 28 games per season. It's not a bad return for him. Former Chorley and Fleetwood player, so somebody with an affinity for the Northwest. Kurt Willoughby is the other option now. Haven't seen enough of him to really give him some top stats, but I think he could do a lot and improve. As you can see there, fringe play could still improve, so there is potential in him, but it's worth unlocking. There are two players part of the squad who are not here on Football Manager, so that is Regan Ogle and Jack Sanders. Both are on loan, but they're short-term loans, and in terms of Sports Interactive, they only look at loan deals from transfer window to transfer window. So if you are a short-term loan, and they both are considered that, they don't quite make it into the game. Should they get extended in January when the new data, the new save comes out, save updates in January, then they certainly will be featured. A bit of a tip for you is in the development centre. So far I have 3 players, I believe, in the development centre. Here we are, James Stanley, Jack Byrne and Sheldon Green, youth players that are coming through. Andy Taylor is stationed there at the minute while he's recovering from injury. One of the tips that I learnt quite a few years ago was that these players in grey you can actually offer a contract to. So you can bring them through if you really need to. So for example, you can click on Andrew Crampton here, and if his stats were any good, if his stats were what you wanted, you know, he's 6'2" and a central defender, maybe there's something there, you can go straight in and offer him a contract that will then allow him to come in as part of your youth squad. So I've just done that, and he should be joining us any day soon. You also do need to assign some managers to these teams as well. Not too happy with the team report there. This is a rather mediocre development squad. That's because there's not many players in it. But there's some potential there with both Stanley and Byrne. Certainly Sheldon Green, I'd like to see a bit more of him over the coming season. When you are going to make a scouting appearance in the screen, and indeed you want to make an offer for some players, I'll just show you that Fylde have got the transfer budget up there, 20k, and the wage budget of 1k available. Already Carl Newton is recommending Michael Turner available on a free transfer. His estimated wage though would take up our remaining wage budget, but 4 stars for current ability and the potential ability, certainly somebody that could do a job for us. He's centre back though, and I think we've got 2 good ones in Whitmore and Pond. That's the type of player that he will recommend, having worked with him previously. I wanted to make a couple of recommendations of players that are available. So these are who I would look at if you were going to take on AFC Fylde. So Armando Dobra, bit of a maverick, big score on flair and dribbling, but a good work rate as well. He's Albanian and he's on loan, available on loan from Ipswich. So other clubs interested in him: Chesterfield, Sutton and Torquay. So as you can see, clubs that are similarly mostly non-league. So he can play mainly central midfield, that's his best position. Similarly, James Vennings on loan, available on loan again from Charlton Athletic. Good stats, I think. Passing, vision, pace, acceleration, pretty much what you want from a central midfielder. I would suggest that he's a box-to-box midfielder before even seeing his available roles. So he is also on loan and wanted by Haventon, Waterlooville and Weymouth. So somebody to check out. In terms of free transfers, because we all love a free transfer, these are the guys that I'd be looking at. In goal, Freddie Lapworth. So anytime you've got a free transfer there with a bit of yellow on the screen in terms of his goalkeeping stats, somebody that I would have a quick look out for. Previously has sort of bounced around the lower leagues. He was with Cheltenham, apologies. So that's something to look for. Max Broughton, central defence. I think young lad, 19 years old. Again, good stats in terms of heading and tackling, but pace. For a central defender, quite unusual. So he is also wanted from the off by a host of clubs really, and some lower league clubs. I'll get that right, Football League clubs in the likes of Morecambe. So get him in early is what I would suggest. Vicente Gomez, another central midfielder. He's got a few yellows here. We're talking about passing, determination, natural fitness. 32 years old now, so a bit of mileage on the clock. But as you can see, plenty of time spent in the National League and National League South with Dover, Barrow and Sutton. Prior to that, he was with Southend, having arrived in England from Almeria. Chris Eagles, very experienced player, obviously started his career I think at Manchester United, didn't he? But has been bouncing around the lower leagues now for quite some time. Had some time in the Scottish Premiership in 17-18, missed a year, came back with Oldham in League 2. So as you can see, lots there in terms of the north. You've got Blackpool, Bolton, Burnley is where he was at, and of course his stints with Manchester United back in the mid-2000s. Could still do a job. I'd be looking at him if the likes of Dobra and Vennings are not available. Max Clayton, a bit of a favourite of mine from a few years ago. His stats have really gone off the boil though, but could play across the front, so left, right and in the middle. He was previously, when I had him, he must have been Football Manager 16 or 17. He was with Bolton, just sort of breaking through there and seemed to be pretty decent. But since then, went to Blackpool, hardly got a game in 17-18, none at all in 18-19. Don't know what happened there. Possibly injuries, maybe, got to him. I'd love to look into that, to be honest. But I think he's a type of player that could come in and do a good job. I would suggest that his stats are at the top end of some of these, sort of where it says, determination between 4 and 11. I expect it to be up in 9, 10 kind of region. So somebody that I would recommend. So if I was taking over AFC Fylde, as I'm sure I will do at some point, this is the sort of players that I'd be looking at to bring in early doors. If of course you're playing with the first transfer window on. I know some players, hardcore, keep it to themselves and leave the first transfer window out. But that's up to you. So that was AFC Fylde in a nutshell. What you can find here on Football Manager 21. If you're taking over the Coasters, best wishes. Do give me a message. Let me know how it's going. We've got the YouTube account, which will be active throughout the season through various leagues. I'm also on Twitter at CharlieTangoFM. Do get in touch and let me know how you've taken Fylde and whether you've got them as far as I did last year, which was to the Championship. We got to the playoffs, I believe, in my last season there. So whether you could go one better and get them into the Premier League, maybe even European football at Mill Farm. Best of luck with that. I hope it all goes well for you. And I will see you again next time.